Hello there, I'm S&B. This is Codebase Alpha. We've actually hit episode 50, which is quite amazing. When I started all those months ago, back in February, never thought we'd get this far. So, yeah, episode 50, and here we are. We're starting a little bit earlier today. Work's been absolutely mad crazy, and it's really going to mess my schedule up for the next couple of weeks. So, we're just starting 15 minutes a bit earlier than normal today. And we're going to be working once again on our old school text adventure. And there's a number of things we've been developing over the past couple of streams, and that's mainly been around wandering monsters. Excuse me. Yeah, wandering monsters. So we've got these dwarves that wander around and harass players and possibly kill them. And we've been kind of doing stream of consciousness development, really. We've been kind of just coding stuff as and when we see to get it working. Today I want to take the opportunity to begin to refactor that code. We may not get to the complete refactoring, but we'll try. Certainly these next two streams will complete the refactoring, at least phase one of the refactoring, and then there's always a chance that we'll go back at some point in the future, and check it out and say, oh, it needs to change again. But we're going to build in a few things to make expanding the wandering monsters a bit easier. I was debating whether to actually do the change I've got in mind because of the Yagni principle. You ain't going to need it, but I think we do need it in this dungeon. I think we do anyway. Certainly, there's basically two lots of wandering monsters. There's the dwarves, who are the kind of they harass the players, and then there's the pirate who kind of lurks around and steals your treasure and hides it. And a lot of the implementations of Colossal Cave that I've seen, the pirate is just treated as another dwarf, but I don't think I want to do that. I want it to be able to move independently and do different kinds of things. So that's the approach I'm going to take. So let's pop over in the code and see what we can see. I think, where are we? Coding. There we go. Scene change. Okay, so we're in the Event Manager static class at the moment, and it's sprawling. It does all kinds of things. It awards points. It deals with interactions with these dwarfs, so it's the initial interaction with the dwarfs or subsequent interactions when the dwarfs become dangerous. It also looks at rotting dragons. It spawns wandering monsters, and it's also got dice rolling in it. And if we talk about single responsibility, this class has got loads of responsibilities, so we need to sort that out. So we might not sort it out in one go, but we're going to start the process of sorting that out. And where I'd like to start off with actually is this spawn function. So here we've kind of hard coded where these dwarfs are going to spawn. We've actually got one commented out, and we need to deal with that as well. So this means looking at locations, and actually it's quite opportune because a copy of Eddie, welcome to the stream, good to see you. I like that emote. That's good. Is that one of your own, or is that a standard one? Oh, it's a Code Rush emote. Wonderful. I must subscribe to Code Rush. Code Rush, yeah. I'll just never get round to it. I must do that. So what was I saying? There's one hangover from the last stream, which was the fact that when we killed the dwarves, they were supposed to go to a location called Nowhere, but it kind of crashed at that point because it couldn't find Nowhere. So we need to sort that out first, and it's a simple fix for that. So let's pop over to our locations folder, and this is where all of the various rooms and features of the dungeon are kind of created. So each is a class, and there's a lot of them. So what we need to do is actually create a Nowhere class. So we can do that. Actually, we can do it down here. If I use Code Rush features and we say new dungeon room, and I press the space bar, then we get a new dungeon room. And this is going to be Nowhere. Let me spell it right. Nowhere. Okay, so the name is going to be nowhere. Short description, we can just leave blank because no one's ever going to reach nowhere. There were no valid moves, there were no items there. Okay, so that is nowhere. So let's move that into its own class. We can move type to file. That's gone over here. And we need to move into the locations area. So nowhere has appeared. Where's it appeared? What was I sat in? Event manager, wasn't I? So it's here. So let's just move it into locations. There we go. Okay. And that needs to be locations. In which case we don't need half of these definitions. And then in our location enum, we've already got nowhere in, so it's position. It's location 0. So location.nowhere is where this is. So that should actually now create a class for nowhere, and we shouldn't run into the problem of our when we kill a dwarf and it getting transported to nowhere. It shouldn't crash. So we'll test that at some point. I'll just show you that piece of code. It's on the little axe at the moment. When we this needs some work as well. I've got some ideas, but it's a bit complicated. This class doesn't have all the information we need necessarily to do a good refactoring, so we might need to leave it for a while. But here we moved them to nowhere, and this is what was failing before. So yeah. So that's that. So what else do we need to do? Well, on adventure location, if we go back to event manager, as I say, we've hard coded this kind of sport points here. Copper Beardy, thank you very much for the follow. That's wonderful. So 231. So we're kind of heading in a good direction. 77% of our way to the target. So that's a wonderful thing. So thank you very much. Have some electric Alf hype. This is a live WebGL shader that's actually running in real time, and this was created by our good friend Fuel Snable, who also did our hyperspatial hype, and we'll celebrate your follow with some hyperspatial hype as well. So here's the hyperspatial hype, which is millions and millions, infinite number of our alien friend Alf swirling around there. That was, again, that's being generated in real time. It's not a video or anything like that, so it's different every time we look at it. I love that. Okay, so let's kind of tackle this concept. We want to be able to have these spawn locations actually built into our data structure rather than hard coding them. So let's have a look at that. So in our interfaces, we have iAdventure location. And we need to give this some more properties. So we're going to we've got level is start. So we'll have bool is spawn point. And get set that. We're also going to have an alternate spawn point. Because the situation we've got when we start to spawn these the monsters, we don't want to spawn them right on top of a player, so we need an alternative location to spawn to if the player happens to be sitting in a spawn point when the monsters get created. So it's alternate spawn point. So we'll get set that. Okay, so those obviously will be false except when we set them. So let's go and have a look at where we spawning monsters. So I'm just going to note them down on my pad here. So we spawn at the Hall of Mountain King, Fisher West, Y2. Some of these are very close together, so we might actually change some of these locations. all alike 4, complex junction, and all alike pirate chest cave. Okay, so let's go to those locations. And the alternate spawn point currently, I believe, is the gold room. Once again, we may change it because it does create quite a challenge for the player when they start off. So here on gold room, we're going to mark that as is alternate. Oh, this is this. We need to go to adventure location. Adventure location, and we need to implement the. That's interesting, isn't it? So adventure location. I've added 2 values to that, and I don't see my adventure location complaining about it. Okay, well, let's make those public. Okay, and then we'll go to gold room here, and this time alternate spawn point is alternate spawn point. It's going to be true for that one, and we can have multiple alternate spawn points, but in this case it's only going to be 1. So that's that one set up, and then we need so there's the all alike maze. All alike 4 is a spawn point. We'll just copy that. What else was there? There was the Hall of the Mountain King. Oh, Pirate Chest Cave. We're in the same area here, so let's just set that up. Hall of the Mountain King is going to be a spawn point, which is here. And this number of spawn points will define how many dwarfs get spawned, which is useful. We don't have to then fix that at any particular value. Then we've got complex junction. I think it was 1, but we need to do something about complex junctions. So this is going to be level 1, and that. So we do need to go through and set up some set the levels correctly. We haven't got all the levels defined. So it's complex junction. We've got Y2, which is down here. That's going to be a spawn point. Fisher West, we said, was a spawn point. And finally, I think that's it. All the Mountain King, Fisher West, Y2, all alike 4, complex junction, and pirate cave. Okay, so we've got those set up. So on our event manager now, when we do spawn wandering monsters, what we can do is this. We can say that var spawn points so we've got game. What's on game? We've got players and wandering monsters. We've got dungeon. What's on dungeon? We haven't got our location, so we need our list of locations. So let's go and have a look at that. So this is all part of the changes we're going to have to make. Okay, so let's not make that change just yet, because that's going to really affect what we do with our main refactoring. So let's just shut this down a bit so we get a bit of space. Okay. I'm going to create a new class. and I'm going to call it, what am I going to call it? Naming's hard. We're going to call it Dwarf Manager. Dwarf Manager. Okay, and we'll make that a public class. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to define a method on there, which will be public void at, and we need to pass something into it. And what we're going to do is get all this code that's in here about dwarves, and we're going to chop it out. I'll leave that comment in there. As per such, many thanks for the subscription. Thank you. That's a renewal, is it? I think it is. Thank you very much for that. That's wonderful. There's some infinite alpha to celebrate, so thank you so much. So 3-month subscription. So you should have a new badge. I think you should have a. I think it might well be a blue rocket now. So if you'd like to just type something into chat, yes, you do a nice blue rocket. So that's from the green one. So yeah, super. Okay, so let's chop all this code out and see if we can squeeze it into our new Dwarf Manager. So we got this. Let's copy that out, and yeah, so we should be okay. All right. It's our Dwarf Manager. In our act, we're going to do that, and we're going to see all of the errors that we get. So we haven't got player and we haven't got game. Player and game look like the main things we need. So we're going to pass in I read only adventure game, I think it was. What have we got hold of here? Okay, an event manager will tell us. So we need to look at interfaces. Let's grab this. Over in our Dwarf Manager. I read only adventure game is game. And we may pull these out into a constructor. For the moment we won't. I think this is I adventure player, is it? I adventure player. It's going to be player. That should sort a lot of stuff out. So we need event IDs as well in that case. And we also need access to interactions. Let's get that. Items. It's item factory. Spawn wandering monsters we're going to bring in. We need link. We should be getting through a lot of these red squigglies now. So we've got a random number generator and we've got that. So okay, so we've done pretty well. So event IDs is also something we need. Okay, well I think what we might do there is bring that in. So where's event IDs live? Events, so maybe we can just get it that way. We can. Okay, so that's virtually everything we need. It's just this random number now. So let's deal with that next. Just so that we've got a class which looks clean. So over here, let's create another class. So we're going to add a class, and we're going to call it die roller. So this is going to be a public static class. It's going to be called die roller. We're going to, what we're going to need, we're going to need to have a random number sequence of some kind. Doesn't really matter if it's not perfect, it's good enough for what we need. Okay. I'll put it outside the class, it's silly boy. So that's that. Okay. Right, what else do we need? So what I'm going to do on here is we're going to have a percentage. Public static percentage, and then we're going to pass in there a target, and I think we're going to return a bool from that. Okay, and then we can go over to here. We can chop out our die roller. So we'll have these bits of code into our die roller. We need to have this as a separate method. Get random number between min and max, and then this is going to be, we're not going to have hits, we're going to have to code that. Okay, so let's just be careful here. Let's reinstate that code. I'm going to commit that out for a second. We're going to need to relocate that code somewhere else, so let's just take care of this. So it's basically this piece of code here we want. So what we want to say is let's just type return true here. Return false. What we're going to say is if that's less than the target. Okay, that's our percentage die roller, and then we're going to want something similar, which will be a six-sider. This will be let's just be roll. Roll again. So between 0 and 5. Okay, there's a six-sider roll as well. Let's just grab this piece of code here, cut that out, and that needs to go over in Dwarf Manager for the moment. There it is. So on there. I love these kind of structure lines that you get now. They're very, very useful. So let's just uncomment that out and we'll sort that code out in a minute. Okay. So now we can go into here and we can say die roller. Bring that in. So where did we put this? That's in adventure, so let's just make sure we're using that. Using that. Die roller dot 6-sider, and the target is 2. And down here we've got so this one actually wants the number rather than the true or false, so we can have we'll have a version of that, and it will be another version percentage, and this is going to simply return the value. Come on. So let's return the value it comes back with. Okay. Over in Dwarf Manager, we can simply go. We'll do die roller dot percentage like that, so we can put a breakpoint on there and find out what it is. That's bringing that's been defined as a bool, is it? Yeah, that's going to be int. Okay, that's the Dwarf Manager. So we've got spawn wandering monsters, which we need to bring across, and get random number. So this once again is going to be, we don't need any of that. This is going to be my roller 20 percentage. Okay, there's that, and there's, I think over in the little axe we do a die roll. In the little axe that we do the die roll. Oh, it's under interaction called chance, which isn't going to last that long, but we'll humour it and keep it around for a little bit longer. So let's bring in the adventure location, and this is simply going to be return die roller dot percentage, and it's going to be underscore pct sent into that, so we can lose that and we can lose that. And I'm pretty sure there's other places where we might well have some randomness going on, so I'll have to check that out. I'll do that a bit later on when we got a bit further with the refactor. There we go. Okay, so that's that gone. Our die roller is almost complete. I don't think not an awful lot more we need in that. Dwarf Manager. Okay. There's a spawn wandering monsters thing going on there. Okay, so let's go and get the spawn wandering monsters code out of Event Manager. I'll grab that. So already our Event Manager is looking pretty devoid of any kind of use, really. But it will bring it back. We'll bring it back, don't worry. So spawn wandering monsters is going to live down here. It's going to be a private member. So interesting. So this is going to have to manage wandering monsters. Currently it's going to create them on the game itself, but we don't want to create the wandering monsters on the game. We want to create them on our manager class. So adventure game is over here. Here's wandering monsters. Let's just pull that piece of code and pop it in as a property of the so this is going to be yeah, we'll keep it called Wandering Monsters for now. I'm not convinced. So let's go down here. So it's no longer going to be the game which gets this, it's going to be our local list. Oops. And we're going to need access to the locations that have been created for us. So let's create a constructor. So public dwarf manager, and we'll pass in there. What should we pass in? We've got dungeon here. Underscore locations is a dictionary. We want one of those, don't we? Let's have one of those. Locations. This is going to, we're going to pass in this dictionary of locations, and we're going to see if we can pass that in. So it may not be the best thing, but we're going to do it for now, and then we're going to see what happens. Locations equals locations. We might not need to do all that. Okay, so we've got our locations. Now we need to, in our initialization code here, we need to actually step through our locations and find out which locations are spawn points. So let's see what we can do. So var spawn points are going to be, so this is, once again, we're focusing on the dwarves only, and currently spawn points, they don't differentiate whether they're dwarves or maybe some other kind of wandering monster. So we're going to have to address that at some point. But in the kind of interest of doing the simplest thing we can and getting the refactoring into a position where we can test it, let's just go with the idea that we're just dealing with dwarves and forget about the pirate. We're going to have to bring into the play at some point in the future. So this is going to be spawn points are going to be locations where L dot is okay. What am I getting here? I'm getting, okay, so I need to step through them. Okay. Let's try it like this first. For each var location in what do I get out of var? Get a key value pair. And now I should get an iAdventure location. Okay, let's run with that and see how it goes. So we'll say that if okay, so we don't want to do this, do we? Just a messy. So we're going to do the spawn points again. So var spawn points equals locations dot values dot where is spawn points. So we'll get the list of spawn points that way, get our locations. So this should actually be a proper location, an iAdventure location, and I think iAdventure location is what we want to pass into the constructor. It is good. So then we can say for each var spawn points. Then we don't need to do the try get location anymore. We simply need to add the wandering monster at that location, and it's going to be at spawn point. So that should do all of those. We need to get our alternate location, so we'll get the same bit of code here. So there may be more than one, so alt spawn points is going to be where there is alternate spawn point, and in this case we can lose all of this code, and we can say if the current location is that, then it's gonna, in this case we know we're only creating one, so this will be alt spawn point start first, or default be first. And we'll just put a defense against that. So what we'll do, alternate spawn point is going to be the first of those, first or default, and then we'll say that, and here we'll say if alt spawn point not equal to null, just to defend against that eventuality. So we could say that in our game we don't define an alternate spawning point, and monsters can spawn directly on top of the player, but that would be a bit nasty. Okay, that should take care of spawning the wandering monsters. Okay, so we're going to call this monsters rather than wandering monsters, and we're going to say that we're going to define a monster manager interface. Like that. Okay, so let's create over in our interfaces, let's create iMonster Manager, and a new item. This is going to be an interface. It's going to be iMonster Manager. So I'm creating an interface here because I think we're going to have more than one set of kind of monster managers really. So we're going to want some polymorphism. Okay, so what's it got to have? It's got to have. We're going to say it's got to have a list of monsters, which is going to be that. And it's got to have an act method like that. And we'll grow this interface as necessary, but that seems reasonable. So that's iMonsterManager, which this is going to implement. So should it have locations? Probably. So let's make this a public dictionary, call it locations, and just give it a getter. Oops. Oops, what's it doing? Times IDs are too helpful. Let's try. Yes, it's determined to give me get a hash code in that position. Thank you. Public dictionary. That. Let's put that into the into there as well. We don't need public. We need to bring in some namespaces. So locations. And now it's locations with a capital L equals locations. And down here we need to fix that. So it's interesting. I wonder if we could get away I was wondering with these variables if we could get away with having those as properties. Yeah, it might be useful. A bit of a Yagni going on here, but no, we'll leave it. We'll stick with the Yagni principle. We don't actually need access to the spawn points outside of this process yet. Okay. So we got ourselves a dwarf manager, but it doesn't actually exist yet. We haven't actually created an instance of it. So we're going to need to do that. So we're going to probably refactor this bit again, but for the moment we're going to create it over here in adventure game. Now we no longer need this list of wandering monsters here. However, what we could have is a list of iMonster managers. And we could call that monster managers. That's going to simply be an empty list to begin with. Right, okay. We're going to say that monster managers is going to equal what's it going to equal? We can say monster managers dot add, and if we'll just do the minimum we can do at the moment, which is we're going to add dwarf manager. So this isn't the final thing we're going to do, but a new dwarf manager so we spell it correctly. dwarf manager, and in there we're going to pass in dungeon dot what's available to me on dungeon. Come on, what's on dungeon? Get a private reading and a dictionary of locations. So once again, let's make that public and call it locations. And here we're getting some repeated code, so we may not actually need to keep this in the end. So there's locations, and locations. Now what does iDungeon look like? We're probably going to want to say that for the moment, and iDungeon will have that. So let's say it does. Okay, oops. You've got a namespace missing, I think. Okay, so that's iDungeon. So yeah, it's starting to feel like a lot of we're moving this list of locations around, but I think it might be useful to have. So here we where was it? In the adventure game, we were going to pass in the locations. Interesting, it's not giving me any help on that. Let's do a build and make sure we're okay. We can't expect it. Rebuild. Oh yes, we've now pulled wandering monsters. I'm not getting any interesting. I'm not getting much in the way of help here. I read only adventure. Let's move on. Let's carry on without it for now. I read only adventure. No longer needs wandering monsters, which is good. Try build. Oops. Dwarf manager. What's the namespace of dwarf manager? Shouldn't be location, should it? Should just be adventure. Need to bring that namespace in. There we go. Let's try build now. Oh, still not happy, is it? Does not define wandering monsters. I don't want it to. Oh, I see. Okay, so where are we? We're in dwarf manager. That's good. So we can now. What did I call it? Monsters. Yeah. Monsters. Monsters. And monsters. Not game.monsters anymore. It is self-contained, which is good. Try build again. Once again, we've got get dwarf if present. Okay, so this is where the refactoring becomes a bit more tricky. I need to know if there's a dwarf at the location or a monster at the location that we are currently at. So let's just expand this to expanded method and just have a play around and see what we got access to. So game dot. So what's game got available to me? It's got a list of iMonster managers. So we're going to need that on our interface for read-only adventure game. Okay, so now over here in our little axe, we've now got game dot monster manager. It's a list. So okay, that's fine. This is going to be a problem when we have more than one monster manager up and running, but we'll go with it for now. So it's going to be the first one. And then we're going to say if we find one, if manager it's null, then we're going to return null. Yep. Else we're going to look at manager dot monsters and return that. Okay, so can we do that? I think we'll put the explicit test in. Then I can always track through that. The breakpoint in that location, see what goes on. Okay. Let's make sure we still build. Rambling Geek, good evening. Welcome to the stream. Good to see you. So we're doing a lot of changes. Trying to pull out a lot of the functionality which we found its way into our event manager, pull that out into a dedicated monster managing class. In this case, it's the dwarf manager. And what we hope is going to happen is that when we call act, it's going to do all of these actions here and take care of everything. Spawn wandering monsters no longer seems like it needs a game, so we can lose that, which is always nice. Get rid of that. We just need the player, and the only reason we pass the player into spawn wandering monsters is we don't necessarily want the monsters to spawn right on top of the player. That looks okay. Okay, so now over in Event Manager, what we're going to say under dwarves, we're going to say that for each var manager in game.monster managers, then we're going to say manager.act. And what do we want in there? We want the game and the player passed into it. Okay. So we're now down to quite a lot less code. The code that's been moved out, what misspelt words have been found? Interesting. The code we've moved out has gone to a class that where it's actually to do with managing the dwarfs, and our event manager simply just says, okay, if there are any monster managers out there, just go and act. So I guess what we need to do now is see if it works. Make sure we build first. Okay, so there's another thing we need to do. Now, when I spawned the dwarves here, in fact, we can, as this is not actually a public method, we're going to call it spawn dwarfs. Because that's what we're doing. If it becomes a public method, which all of the instances of Monster Manager have, then we won't. We'll change it back. But let's be explicit about what we're doing. We are the Dwarf Manager. We're going to spawn dwarves. Right. So one of the issues we had when we first set up the default spawn points a couple of streams ago now is that some of the locations I've kind of not coded yet. So this is the dungeon as it stands so far, and one of the dwarves is going to spawn down here in Complex Junction. And it is true that some of these exits don't actually exist. So what we're going to need to do is go and have a look at what locations it do exist. I'm going to move. In fact, I'll get my own copy of that map. So apologies for nipping off screen there. So I've got my own copy of the map here, and I can see that if I look at this copy, I've created Dusty Rocks and this tunnel that goes back down to here, and I've also created anteroom and bed quilt. So we need to make sure that these are set up so the dwarf can move around in them. Let's go and have a look at Complex Junction. This is because when it spawns and tries to move, we don't want it to crash because of it can't go anywhere. So what do we want? We wanted Complex Junction. Okay, so we've got Dusty Cave, Belquid, and Anteroom as valid locations, and they're level 1. So what we're going to need to do is to make sure that Dusty Cave, Belquid, and Anteroom are also level 1. So bed quilt. These are weird kind of names, I know, for these locations, but it's because it's a lot of kind of caving names, really. It's what they called them when they the cave was first explored the caves, and Colossal Cave is a real place, and Bed Quilt Cave is a real place. So these are actually modelled on real locations, and they just kind of stuck a load of dwarves and dragons and trolls and things into it. So what the other one was, Dusty Rocks, Dusty Cave, Dusty Rock Room. Yeah, so that's got to be level 1. Anteroom has got to be level 1. So from bed quilt you can get to Swiss cheese, which is another caving term. So Swiss cheese, Swiss cheese has got to be level 1. You get to the soft room. It's going to be level 1. You can get to Tall East West Canyon, which is here, and that's got to be level 1 as well. No doubt that we'll actually run into trouble when we when we come to run, because the dwarf might wander off into areas where it can't go. So we've got Oriental Room. That's going to be level 1. So tall east-west canyon, we've done that one. Tight northwest canyon, north-south canyon rather. That's level 1. Oriental Room, large low room. Large low room, that's level 1. Slab room. Where's slab room? Can't see slab room. According to this, I've created it. Don't think I have I? Slab room, I have. Let's do a search for that. Slab room, there it is. That's level 1. Low room we've done. I think it gives a bit of room for the dwarf to wander around. Now, some of this, there are some issues with some of these, in that, so for example, if we go to bed quilt, which is here, then there's a lot of random moves here. So the way we get around the random moves, and so that our dwarf doesn't get kind of stuck in random moves, is to find some monster moves. So Rumley say ISS and OS fails completely if you want to do more than one thing. Is that at the same time? I don't think there's a way of doing more than one thing. You can multitask, but you can't split the screen, can you? I can't remember. I've not tried. Can you see 2 windows at the same time in iOS? I forget. So I'm in the Hall of the Mountain King. I've got monster valid moves. So let's copy that over to bed quilt and define monster valid moves. Valid moves, and then there's monster valid moves. And the monster valid moves are going to be these 3. Where else can we go? So we can get to the ante room. So slab room, secret junction. So new. I've got that as a shortcut. New player move. I have. This was going to be ante room. And then new player move. What did I say? Tall east-west canyon. And new player move. I think I said secret junction. And it doesn't. These directions don't actually matter. Means these are monster moves. Oops. I'll come back and tidy those out. And get rid of the comments, we don't need them. So this means that when we get these, if it gets as far as bed quilt, the dwarf, then it's got some defined ways it can go, rather than just kind of wandering around. I'll put anti-room there, and we'll put tall, just so it's got something in, I suppose. And then we'll put secret in there. Doesn't need anything because with the monster moves, it's not taking a command from the keyboard. Obviously, it's the program will do the move. Okay. I think that is the majority of the. Just looking at my map here, if I show you, you can see that on bed quilt these are marked as random, which is what's going to cause a problem. I don't think that the as far as I got it so far, that the monsters would be able to negotiate random corridors. So that should take care of that. There's not that many random ones. There are a few. There's one there looking Swiss cheese. So let's take care of that as well. So Swiss cheese, and that's here. Let's just copy this. Monster moves. The Swiss cheese has one random move in it. So what we'll do is simply copy all of those. Like that, and then we'll add a new player move on that, and that will be to oh no, we don't need that. That's just a south move, isn't it, to either Oriental or to Tallest West Canyon, so that's fine, we don't need it. Although there is a commented out move here which we need to make sure we take into account. Just haven't written 2-pit room yet. Okay. So that's Swiss cheese, which has got random. I don't think there's many others. There might be a few more with randoms, but it should be okay. It tends to be down here in the deeper dungeon where you start getting the random movement. Then there's Wit's End, which is horrendous. We haven't even written Wit's End yet. That's completely random. There's random there, random there. Okay, so now there are some areas where dwarfs can't go, and they can't go over this bridge. So everything on that side of the bridge is actually off limits to them. So we're going to define that as level 2. But we haven't got to worry about that for the moment. Let's do a build and run the program and see what happens. Close down a few of these tabs. So if you haven't seen the adventure game running before, we're going to run it. We're going to run it in Slack. Now it's my bot, an alpha bot, is a multi-client bot, so it runs in Twitch chat, it runs in Slack and in Discord. So you'll see some messages popping up because it runs in all three. We're actually going to use the Slack client because it's easiest for me to show you on screen. So here's the Slack client. So let's run out. I'm going to move it off screen for a second, and let's run our bot, and we'll see what happens. Come on, bot. Okay, we're running. Bot is running. We can see the bot's running because we can type in help into chat, and we get our commands. Over here we can type ADV for adventure. So now I'm in a kind of personal private conversation with the bot, and here is I'm sitting at the end of the road, and there's a building here. So I'm going to I have to use ADV to start each command at the moment. We're going to try and get around that at some point, but at the moment I haven't figured out exactly how to do that. So we're going to go into the building. I'll just show you that if we look around in the building, there's there's a whole bunch of items here. The main thing we want here is our lamp. So it says several battered lamps. We need to do something about that as well, because we need to be one lamp per player, but not so that when we take the lamp it looks like there's no more lamps for us. So I must remember to do that. Got a whole bunch of notes here. Done that one. Okay. What we need is a lamp. So let's ADV grab a lamp. ADV light lamp. At the moment you have to use verb noun. I would like to be able to say lamp on at that point. Once again, that's slightly more tricky to do, so it doesn't do that at the moment. So the lamp's shining brightly now. And what we've got for testing, we've got a teleport command. And the teleport command is going to take me into the deepest, darkest parts of the dungeon, where we're almost certain to encounter a dwarf. So let's have a look. So we're in the Tall of the Mountain King. So we have a look round. So there's a snake, nasty looking dwarf in the room with me, which is a bit. No, I think that's okay. I think, let me just check, is that correct? I think we've forced it so that the dwarves are active when I teleport. Teleport. Yes. So this flag here is set this event so the dwarves are going to be active when I and I've also got the axe with me. I've got a little axe. So that's correct. There's a nasty looking dwarf in the room with me. So that's interesting because it's spawned in my location, hasn't it? And we said we wouldn't do that. So ADV throw axe. The dwarf has dodged. Grab the axe again. Can't see an axe here, so we haven't dropped the axe. Okay, I've still got the axe in my inventory then. So if I do AV inv, yes, I've still got the axe. So what was supposed to happen when I threw the axe, it's supposed to have been dropped in the room, but luckily we can simply go swing axe. Yeah, I've killed the dwarf. Okay, so it looks like the wandering monsters are working okay. So let's go up. We should go to the Hall of Mists. Top of a small pit. I was just going to wander around, see if we can see another dwarf. Okay, and what I'm going to do is put a breakpoint in our dwarf manager. And we're going to see where all the dwarves have moved to. So, and we need to look at spawn dwarves because it's spawned just on top of us, and we didn't want to do that. So we'll stick a breakpoint there, and then we'll go up. Okay, so let's see where the dwarves are. So dwarf 0 is in the long hall east. Dwarf number 1 is in Swiss cheese. Dwarf number 2 is in all alike. 3 is nowhere because we killed him. 4 is in white 2 and 5 is in all alike. So there's one in white 2. Okay, well let's continue. And we'll do add go west. Let's see if they've moved. So this one is in the west side chamber, so he's definitely moved. He's in the Oriental room. He's in the Hall of Mist west. Nowhere, of course he's dead. low passage, and all items. So they are moving around, which is great. So we've proved that. So let's have a look at this spawn code then, because we did see that this spawning at a different location doesn't seem to work. So let's pop a breakpoint in there, and we will run the alphabot again. And we'll see what happens. Okay. So ADV to join the game. So using the teleport command actually kind of shortcuts a lot of the stuff. So if we have time, I will show you the rest of it. But grab lamp. It's as we kind of the idea of the teleport is so that we can get somewhere where something exciting is going to happen. Actually, try to test the code. Otherwise, we spend a lot of time wandering around. Let's teleport. So we've hit here. Okay, so step over that and step over that. So the gold room is the alternate spawn point, and these spawn points are all alike. Complex junction, all the mountain king where we are. So number 3 is going to spawn where we are. We want it to spawn in the gold room instead. So those are all correct. It's picked those up from the from our data, which is much better than the hard-coded version it was before. So let's step here. Continue to there. That's 1. This is number 1 rather. Number 2. Then number 3 is in the Hall of the Mountain King. The player location. The Hall of the Mountain King, I believe. Player location, Hall of the Mountain King. So it should go in here. It does. It sets the monster's previous location to the alt spawn point of the gold room. So where are they now? Number 3 should be in the gold room. And it is. Now the gold room is there. I'll just make that bit bigger. The gold room is here, just off the Hall of Mist. So we've teleported into the Hall of the Mountain King. So there shouldn't be a dwarf in our current location, but there was last time. So they're going to move. Let's just pop a breakpoint there and get to there. So this is dwarf. It's all alike. So let's just continue. That's 1, 2. This should be 3. He's in the gold room. So he's not seen the player. So he's going to move to a new location because there's only one way out the gold room. So he should have ended up in the Hall of Mist, which he has. So if we continue, what happens? What happens here? Continue. There's no dwarf in the room with us, is there? Let's get rid of that. Continue from there. So it says there's 2 nasty looking dwarves in the room with me, so that's not correct. You can't possibly have got into that space there, so we've got a problem. So where is that code running? Nasty looking dwarves in the room, it's here. Num dwarves. So we need to have a breakpoint in there, and I will just do throw the axe. The one's dead. I look for each dwarf in monsters where current location is not null. Ah. Interesting. So, all alike. Red quilt. All alike. Nowhere in Hall of Mists East. Still nowhere where we are. So number 4 is in the Hall of the Mountain King. How did number 4 get there? It's possibly could have got there, but not in one move. So number 4 would have possibly started out here. So that's still can't figure out how 2 of them got into that room. Okay, we're going to need to run again, I think. Let's stop and try again. So where should I put my break points? So this is after the first move has happened. So let's just pop a breakpoint there as well. And for previous location is current location. Current location is the new location. And we'll pop a breakpoint. Yeah, we don't need one. No, it's okay, we'll leave it there. Okay, so let's go and start again. ADV. And we're going to go into the building. We're going to take the lamp. Light the lamp. We're going to teleport. Okay. So this should end up with a monster going to the gold room instead. And which dwarf is it doing that? So he's in the all of the Mountain King currently. Number 3. Number 2 is at Y. Number 4 is at Y2. So he can't possibly get all the way down to the Hall of the Mountain King in one go. Okay, so let's run it. Like it's dwarfing dwarves. So they've spawned. I think we need to. Once they've spawned, we need to. We shouldn't move on the turn that they spawn. Okay, so this could be the reason why we're getting such weird behaviour. Let's see. So after initial spawning, they should be in this position initial point. So all like 4, complex junction, Fisher West. So we can ignore those. 3 is in the gold room. 4 is in Y2. 5 is way off. Let's continue. Okay, so now we're going to move. So all alike. So that's 0, 1, 2, 3. So he's in the gold room. Where's the new location? Hall of Mists East. So he's going to go there. Y2 is going to go to Jumble of Rocks. Continue. Pirate Chest is going to go somewhere else. So, put each dwarf in monsters where current location is not null. So 3 is in Hall of Mist East. Or was it Jumble of Rocks? And none of them are in the current location of the player. So if we continue and we do ADV look, I think looking might be the problem. I think they're going to move. So that's all alike. Get rid of that. Continue. And they're going to move again, aren't they? So 3 is in Hall of Mountain King. You see, he's got there. Yeah. And 4 is in Jumble. He's gone back to Y2. So we should have 1. It wasn't one in the room with us, and we just did a look, and now there is 1 in the room with us. So what we'll find here is a nasty looking dwarf in the room with you. Okay, so that explains why that's happening. So let's do a couple of things. First, when we spawn the dwarves, let's return at that point. So once we spawned, we don't do anything else. We don't move them at the same time. And also, what we'll do is we'll define the look command as not actually checking for events. So you can look around, and that doesn't prompt the event manager to fire up again. So that should give us now a bit more time. So only when we move around or I think interact doesn't do it. What does drop? Doesn't. Checking your inventory doesn't. Moving does. Saying plu does. Speaking doesn't. Taking things does. Teleporting obviously does. Magic word does. And yes, doesn't. That's probably okay. We can always fine tune that. Looking around shouldn't shouldn't take any time. You should be able to just look around and get some more information about where you are. Having said that, we must have a listen command as well. Let's add a listen command. So with a listen command, we can start to get some kind of auditory input as well as the visual input, which would be quite good for some puzzles at some point. Okay, so that seems to be okay, doesn't it? Let's run it up again, just check that it's looking a bit better in terms of gameplay. We're not getting swamped by dwarves straight away, which is going to be pretty deadly and a bit kind of boring when it happens all the time. So ADV again. Right, we'll go in, grab the lamp, light the lamp, and then we'll teleport. So there shouldn't be a dwarf in the room. Let's remove the breakpoints. If I look, it still shouldn't be one in the room. There's a snake, which we expect. Can't deal with the snake at the moment. If I do swing axe, what happens? Yes, there's a few problems at that point. There's a few problems there. So this message is good. It needs to be tailored, but this message, I don't know why we get in swing axe. Couldn't be clearer. That should be fine. That's a bug. Okay. So when we throw the axe, we need to drop the axe. So let's do that bit next. So there's quite a bit of work to be done on using weapons. Hi Brendan, good to see you. Welcome to the stream. We just done a fairly big refactor, pulling out a lot of code from our event handler, event manager into its own wandering monster kind of class, a dwarf manager in this case. So that's been pretty successful. It's now we've got a kind of single responsibility principle being adhered to a little bit better now. What did I say? I was going to drop the axe. So when you throw the axe, we've got to drop the axe into the room. So so in either of those cases, the axe needs to so no matter what happens, the axe needs to drop, doesn't it? So what we can say here is use.registered interaction. So we register a new interaction, which will be a new add to location. So we'll remove from inventory. What do we want to remove from inventory? I forget. Remove from inventory. We need to pass in nothing at all. Just remove from inventory. Really? Yep, move from inventory. And then we need to use registered interactions add a new add to location. We pass in there, we pass in the item to add. So that's going to be a new, and that's going to be item factory dot get an instance of, is that right? Where's the dragon? That'll help us. The problem with not working on this on a regular basis is you forget all the nuances of how you designed it. Dragon. Add to location. Yeah, so get instance, item factory get instance. Yeah, so Brendonis is saying it happens to him all the time with the stream products projects. It's hard to remember everything. Yeah, especially this is relatively complex. There's such a lot of code now. Luckily, it does come back quite quickly. Need another bracket. So that should remove the axe from our inventory and drop it in the room. Okay. So this is a bit. This is a bit garbage. This bit is the problem. All I'm saying is roll a dice. There's an 80% chance you're going to hit the dwarf, and then I do the processing down here. And I'd like to be able to do the processing of that, the outcome of that D100 roll within the registered actions. But the problem I've got is that you need the player and the item, and at this stage I don't have the player in here. So what I really want to do is to kind of pass in. I want to have some delegates, some actions or some funcs which I can pass in the success and failure actions on, so that it's all kind of in the chance command. We also pass in, what happens if it succeeds, what happens if it fails, and we can define those functions within our little axe class. But the fact you need to know who the player is at this stage, and you don't know because you're just setting up an item. It's only when when a particular player interacts with the item, do you know who's actually doing the interactions. So that's there's some thought about required into that, and probably some experimentation. I'm not going to do that on stream. That is far too much speculation, really, speculative stuff. Okay, so let's give that a go. When we throw the axe, if we drop it. Oh no, we need to look at else. We need to do some more. So if you throw the axe, okay. So if there's not a dwarf in the room, so if you, yeah. So at the moment we just say it doesn't seem to be much use, but you really want to throw the axe. We'll leave it like that for the moment. Really, I'd like the axe to be dropped into the room at that point as well. We can do it. We can force it to happen. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. Okay, sorry, running. So let's go and hunt some dwarfs. to the room, get the lamp. The other thing I do want to look at is actually have been able to type in get the lamp and have it ignore the. Copper Beardy, good to see you on the stream. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you later. Take care. Adventure light lamp, just like I want lamp on at that point as well. Light lamp, and take port. Okay, what will we hit here? Stack Overflow exception. Why have I hit that? Oh, I think it's because I'm trying to create a it's the axe, isn't it? That was that axe thing that I was trying to. That's what's changed in here. Get instance. What's wrong with axes then? Item factory. Let's pop a breakpoint in. Add to location. And in item factory. What's going on, I wonder? Item factory. Get an instance of little axe. And a new little axe, that should be fine. Let's go, we'll stick a breakpoint there anyway. Try it again. I wonder. I think it's in the teleport command when I'm giving myself an axe. Let's have a look at teleport. Add item. Add to inventory. Breakpoint there as well. Okay. Start a new game. We might have to back out that change and have a look about what's going on. Take the lamp, light the lamp, teleport, and this is where we're going to hit here. We're going to add an item to inventory. We're going to go into that. Return. So why is it not returning? Are we stuck in some kind of loop here, are we? Yeah, it's a Stack Overflow, isn't it? We're in a loop. Why are we in a loop? I know why. So this bit here is the problem. Every time we get an axe, we add the axe. We get an instance of the axe. Okay. So we're going to do it down here then. Where's the teleport command? We're going to do a quick and dirty fix, and then I'm going to figure the proper way of doing it. So this is going to be add to location. Add to location. This. That's going to be game. We don't need to know about that, I don't believe. Not even the player. Null should work. Add to location. Add to location doesn't need to know about the player, it just adds it to the current location. Oh, it's player.current location, so we do need to send the player in. So that'll be player there. Okay, but the item was in the constructor, so that should work. Let's try again. Interesting. Okay. So no Stack Overflow this time, I hope. Go in. Get the lamp. Right, the lamp. Teleport. Okay, so continue. We'll put the breakpoint there again. Continue. Yeah, we haven't did it again. I'll have a look round. So we're going to go up. I think we should run into a dwarf if we go up. Yeah, we have. Add destroy the axe. So we want to be able to do kill dwarf, murder dwarf, slay dwarf as well, but that's more difficult because the way interactions work, they work on the item, and it's the axe we're throwing, but there isn't actually a dwarf object in the room with us. There's a wandering monster object, but it's not the same as an item. So I'm going to have to figure out how to have dwarf as a possible synonym for axe, but it's not good enough because it could be a dragon or a snake. You want to use a snake, so yeah. So if I do, so we kill the dwarf. If I do look now, there should be an axe. Didn't add it to our location, so inventories. We're still carrying it, and we haven't got it, but it hasn't added it to the location. Okay, why hasn't it done that? So if we teleport, we should get the axe. I haven't got the axe either. Oh, interesting. Okay, so we're not quite out of the woods with this yet. Let's stop. Little axe. So add to location this. Add to location. So we didn't set the location up, did we? Where's the location coming from? Location is null. Player current location, add item. Why didn't that work? Interesting, I've got this variant where I could pass in the location. Let's stick a breakpoint here and try again. This might be a long-standing bug actually. Right. ADV to join the adventure. ADV go in. Get lamp. I could automate all this, but I quite like the preamble of getting that set up. Going in and getting the lamp and all that, 'cause it just demonstrates some of the commands. Okay, let's teleport. So let's take inventory. We should have an axe. We do. If we go up, we should almost certainly run into a dwarf. Yes, we have. So we're going to throw the axe. So we didn't ever hit this, did we? Okay. Did we bomb out? Did we bail out early? Yeah, we bailed out early. Okay. So we're going to do. Oops, we're still running. Sort this out. This is easy to fix. So we'll do a rect val false. I always use rect val. I don't know why. So if we do it that way, even we will drop through and run to else there, and we want to wrap that in braces. But no matter what happens if you throw the axe, swing the axe, whatever, you drop it. Don't like that, but that'll be fine. Let's just try that one more time. I'll have to go through and deal with all the strings at some point and just kind of smart them up for kind of story content to make it a bit more descriptive, a bit more fun. I started doing it by having different when you kind of crawl around through those tight passages. It says it's a tight squeeze and stuff like that. So we started adding a bit more kind of narrative to the game, but it's still lacking a bit. Okay, let's make sure it works. Get the lamp. Oops, ADV. Get the lamp. Got to get rid of that ADV command somehow. Light lamp. Teleport. ADV teleport. V. Teleport. Remember, teleport's just a test command. ADV in physical inventory. See, too quick. We should have an axe. We do. If we go up, we should encounter a dwarf. We do. Add. Throw axe. So we've hit here. Location is null, so we should add it to its current location. step in, add item to the current location, turn true, looks okay. So it's dead, and we should have it to ADV in. We shouldn't have an axe. ADV look. We should see an axe. So there's a small axe here, so that's working. Okay, and we've killed a dwarf. So when we kill a dwarf, we really need to do something. We need to make a note of that. Okay. Let's stop running. So we're doing an awful lot of stuff in one place. I'm not overly happy about it, but the dwarf's gone to nowhere, and we'll just the player dot where's the player's events being kept? Player.event record. Dot. I think we probably need to go to Dwarf Manager and have a look at how it's done there. So if it contains the dwarfs, we just added it. Where are we? Over here. So what we want to say here, little axe, is basically that. But we need to make sure that that actually exists. So if player.eventRecord.contains key, and the key was event ID's dwarf. What we're going to do is award points for number of dwarfs slaughtered by the player. We should be able to bring in the events namespace, and then we can lose that. Yeah. So we'll increment that. So we get I think when we encounter the dwarves, we set it to 1, and then if we increment from every dwarf that's been killed, that's kind of experience, isn't it? So we'll get points for every. So I better make a note of that. I've got a list of point scoring actions here, and I don't think so. We want points. Pencil just broke. Points for dwarfs killed. So we'll say, I don't know, 5 points each. So 5 points for encountering one, and then 5 points for everyone killed. That's not part of the original game, but it sounds good to me. You make dinner now, Brendan. Okay, have a good meal. Hope everything goes well. I don't know if you streamed today. I can't remember. I hope you're streaming tomorrow, because I'll try and catch that. Yes, I think it is coming together quite well. So, and I'm particularly enjoying the way that the refactoring seemed to come out quite naturally. We don't have to think ahead of time on the refactors. He had to cancel today. Oh, child's sick. Okay, we'll see you tomorrow then. Take care. Okay, so there's some nastiness here that we need to take care of. Not there, sorry. Here. So the whole axe thing is pretty naff, but we'll live with it for now. So what else have I got on my long lists of things that we can change? Right, we've got a maze to build. I don't think it's a good idea to build a maze on the stream today. That's the maze of twisty turny passages, all different. Listen command, we said. We've got stickability, so the dwarves do follow you around now. We've got that working. Alternate locations we've got working. Get more accurate in range. So we've got this idea that dwarves can get enraged and they become more accurate at trying to hit you. Currently they only got 20% chance of hitting you, but we won't do that tonight. So starting locations, movements, where dwarves can't go. Oh, here's one. The command handler. Base adventure command. So ignoring words like the, this, and that, and to. We could try that, I think, tonight. Let's have a look. So base adventure command. Let's have a look at base adventure command. So base adventure command has a list of verbs. So what it's saying is the first word is going to be a verb. Where's command handler? Yeah, not die roller. So what this is saying is it gets the first command is the first, and then it doesn't invoke on command. Okay. Let's take drop. The item to drop is arg1. Okay. So you can assume we've got the verb in the first slot. The item to drop is going to be in one of the other slots. Looks like we're going to have to deal with it on a command by command basis. So let's look at how we can. We'll do it for one command, the drop command, because we can sit in the building and practice with that, and then we'll try to make it into a generic method that we can call from anywhere. So so we got args, and args is a list. What have we got on here? I feel like there should be a really kind of clever way of doing this. Remove. So args dot remove no. So for each var word in args if so let's define var more words. It's going to be a the this that to and so now we can var it, can't we? So if it contains that word, I'm pretty sure that's not going to work. Don't like that form of link. Yeah. So what we need to do is drop a breakpoint at that point and run it up and see what happens. So the one command that we don't want to do this on is when there's a say command where you can talk to other players. Though it's not truly multiplayer this game, so at the moment anyway, I think it'd get quite difficult if it really was multiplayer at the moment. We'd try and get it to be multiplayer so that chat can play adventure with other people in there. So go in, take food, add drop the food. Collection was modified. I thought that would happen. So we need a copy of the array, of the list. So we could say var args copy is equal to args sent is going to equal args to array. And we'll examine args sent. But we'll remove from args. Okay. Put a breakpoint in at that point instead. Okay, let's go again. Andrew 2G, you could not remove items from args in a for each. That's right. So I'll keep coming across that problem. Because I'm for each into it, I can't alter the array. So I can't alter the list. So let's see if we can just step to a copy of the array, copy of the list, and actually then remove from the args. Okay. It's the kind of thing you always want to do, isn't it? You just want to step through and alter the thing you're looking at, but obviously it makes no sense to do it. But I'll keep falling into that trap. But at least I'm aware these days of that kind of thing. So to get the food, got the food with me, and adv drop the food. So our arg array is drop the food. And now the args is drop food, and that is food. And if we continue, you dropped a food item, we should say, or a food packet. You dropped a food. Packet of dried food rations. You dropped a food. Interesting. Wonder what said that. You dropped a item to drop. So that's another thing we need to sort out, isn't it? That kind of thing. Okay. So what we need to do is have this processing of the args done in the base adventure command, I think. Or in the where do I? No, it's not in the base. It's in the command handler. Where's my command handler? Command handler. So when I invoke here, E is my chat command event args. Okay, so we want to do that there, but we don't want to do that for the say command. Let's cut that out. Command handler. That's that. And then that should be remove the words. The problem is going to be with the say command, so we need to sort that out. But let's see if that as a concept actually works. No. I need to bring in namespace. So it's strange, I don't seem to have namespace. I don't seem to have control dot available to me at that point. But luckily we've got it over there. Drop that in. Let's try it now. Okay. Read the leaflet. Okay, so that seems to be working. Drop that. Drop this leaflet. Okay, drop that leaflet. So that's working. So that's nice. That's given a bit more expressiveness. So, but the problem where we're going to have is if I do adv say this will not work because of the null words. It's going to say, oh, I didn't, because there's nobody here, didn't echo it back to me. So for now, we're just going to have to cope with that in the command handler as an exception. Let's have a look. Stop there. So I've got the command. And that is, what type is command? Come on, tell me what type it is. Command dot. Not going to work for me, is it? So interfaces. Adventure command is matched. Skool is verbatim. Get set. I feel like restarting Visual Studio to figure out why that isn't working. So base adventure command. Is verbatim. Simply get and set. And then we can say that on the say command, is verbatim is true, and then we can say over in command handler, we can say if command dot is verbatim, so if not, right, build in that. That built okay. Fascinated by the fact I can't dot into that. I think I'm going to stop. I'm going to just shut down Visual Studio and reopen it. We're going to finish it in a few minutes anyway, so just see if it works. Yeah, it was a restart that was required. Okay, so what have we done today? We've managed to refactor our events manager, so we've now slimmed it down to the whole of the dwarf interaction is into one line of code, and we've got the possibility there of having multiple monster managers. So we've got we say dwarves act here, so we can now replace that and say monsters act. We've got something about a rotting dragon here, which we probably want to pull out to be something that is to do with dragons, but at the moment that's fine. And we're handling scores. I don't mind handling scores within the event manager. So we pulled out all that code into our dwarf manager. Dwarf manager inherits monster manager, which basically defines it's got a wandering monster, a list of wandering monsters, a list of locations, and the act method. And when we want the dwarves to do something or the monster to do something, it's simply called the act command. And this contains all the logic. So it contains the logic to initially spawn your dwarves and then to move them around and attack the player. Spawn dwarves is there, and we've got a roll to hit. Okay, that's pretty good. So we've also introduced null words, the, and, an, this and that. And we've expanded some of the locations where our dwarves can wander. Still need to go through that a bit more. Need to set up level 2 where the dwarves can't go, and we need to set up the maze. The maze of things all different. There's also a whole bunch of rooms down this end, around here, which I haven't set up, and the whole of this, the troll puzzle, troll and bear puzzle, which is all part of kind of a intertwined logic puzzle, which goes in this area on level 2. There's a few other things as well. There's some interesting things that happen here, which require a new type of move called a conditional move, which we haven't invented yet. So I think that's for another time. I think I'm going to stop at this point then, as I've got an early start in the morning. Let's go and let's commit our changes. So this is going to be episode 50. Commit that, and then we're going to push all that to GitHub. So if you are interested in looking at the code, pinching the code for your own devices, or even better, forking the code and submitting some PRs, feel free to do so. This is my GitHub. So do go over there, have a look. All my videos are archived to YouTube. Please do pop over to YouTube, this area, and subscribe. It's completely free to do so, but you'll get notifications when I upload new videos. Usually take 24 hours because the affiliate agreement means that Twitch get 24 hours of exclusive rights to the video. So it'll be 24 hours before that episode 50 gets put up onto YouTube. My Twitter is here. Do me a favour and follow me on Twitter. You'll get advanced notifications of any changes to schedule, and also I do tweet occasionally news on space, which is my other big interest. What else? Oh yes, Discord. Do pop over to Discord and join me on that. We can chat off stream and also ask any questions you might have, especially if you try to implement the alpha bot. Do contact me on there. I'm also available for private messages on Discord as well. So the next couple of streams will continue just trying to get a little bit further with this adventure, and then we're going to return to some audio programming. And I've just bought myself a 49 key MIDI controller. So the MIDI controller we were using before was this little one here, which is fine for just playing around, but it's no good to actually to really to test out all the different MIDI functions. What we're going to do is we had a set of streams several streams ago now, which were to build a synthesizer in .NET Core with WPF. We're going to actually build some synthesizers from the ground up in C++. Using a system called RackAFX, which is really nice. I was using Juice for my audio programming streams, but what I found with Juice was that it's a bit of a pain to set UIs up. It's just quite a lot of work. It's all repetitive and quite boring work, especially for your viewers on stream, just creating sliders or knobs or whatever. So RackAFX actually has a rapid prototyping system for UIs. It also has a drag and drop final UI designer, which is quite nice. But the prototype thing's really good. You just right click on a set. That's like 40 sliders already set up on the screen. You just right click and set a slider up. And there's also things like an LCD panel with an alpha wheel and a variable controller. There's joysticks for synth with joysticks on them. There's buttons, there's menus, there's radio buttons, there's switches, all kind of pre-built for you, and you just kind of right click them and say, want to use this is the variable name, this is the range of the values, and it writes all that code for you, so you haven't got to go through the boring bit of setting the UI up. That's all really quick. It's a fantastic prototyping environment, and what I'd like to do is build to a set of synthesizers, starting with a very simple one and then building up till we get fully sampled sounds, and we can even try and expand to do things like convolution and things like that. So and also we can also use the effects that we created using Juice, because it's very easy to recreate those in RackAFX. But not only that, we can run our synthesizers in a DAW like Reaper, which I have, and we can then add in our own effects and other people's effects as VST3 plugins. So the synthesizers we'll produce will be VST3 plugins. So it's not going to be yet a while before I do that, because I'm working my way through the book that comes with all that that software. It's quite extensive, and it's also very mathematical. So I don't want to be talking about Laplace transforms and Z transforms and complex sinusoids on stream if I can help it. We might do a little bit of mathematical theory, but not very much. It's the coding that people come for, not for maths. So that's the plan for a few streams time, but we're going to continue in the next stream with some more text adventure stuff. Now, I'm not sure about broadcasting on Wednesday according to my schedule, because I may well be going to the cricket, going to the local T20 match. I think that's currently my thinking, that I'm going to do that, so I won't be streaming then, but I'll do an alternate day. Otherwise, let's go and find someone to raid, shall we? So let's pop over to Twitch. So who's live currently? Skool. We'll go and raid Skool. He does audio stuff as well. I'm not sure what he's doing today though. I don't think he's doing audio today. So let's go and raid him. So Skool. So do stay for the raid. Otherwise, I will see you again on the next stream, which will probably be Thursday. Unless I don't go to the cricket, in which case it'll be Wednesday. But we'll just watch Discord and Twitter for news on that. So take care, everybody, and I'll see you again soon.